So, as the sound of Texas Radio Fish goes off into the background, I can welcome you to another episode of Geeks Off The Clock. I'm Hubert Shorter, and I'm here with...
Isla Stanger. And
Yes.
This is our first one with me doing it visually, so I don't really know what to do.
Yeah, well, we tried it before, and yes, you weren't too sure where you should be looking.
No.
No.
And I'm not sure I am now either.
Well, I just think it'll get better in time.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely. It is the podcast about nothing whatsoever, so we sort of make it up as we go along. And I'm going to start with the fact that I really can't stand the weather this week. This is the reason why I've not really gone anywhere.
Yes, I wondered why it hadn't gone out. And you stopped doing your planks as well.
My planks. Oh, yes, I was doing planks. I was increasing the duration of the plank.
I was beginning to think you were looking a little bit flabby.
Oh, thank you very much.
Around the chest area.
That's I shall be planking as of today again. Although, honestly, I've been seriously missing the gym, and I know there are many things that you can do in place of going to one, but I really do miss that. Yes,
I know. But you could be doing more here, but I know you don't think the situation is ideal for that. So.
No, it isn't. But it is what it is. We have to do what we can do.
But it is when the weather's horrible. Can you imagine if this pandemic had been during the autumn, winter months?
Well,
makes you think, doesn't it? Because Alex, my older son, he got caught in a hailstorm yesterday with thunder and fork lightning.
Well, that was all. I mean, I actually didn't realise that it had been hailing.
Yes,
it took me
heavy.
a few minutes to see that. That was terrible.
What is hail?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I understand what the actual hailstones are, as in frozen water. I don't understand
frozen water.
I don't understand how that happens, as opposed to rain or snow.
Well, I mean, the stuff that we do know is that as you get higher in the atmosphere, it gets very cold. I mean, because ultimately you go up high enough, you end up in space, which is incredibly cold. So, how the hail gets here, in the I was going to say in the middle of summer, but summer's really only just begun. Is something I don't really know the answer to.
No, I think we need to look that up. But even
answers
in the winter,
on a postcard.
Even in the winter, why does it hail rather than snow?
I've no idea.
No, actually, we don't know anything.
But like I said,
haven't got the motivation to look it up either.
Answers on a postcard, please. Our solitary listener, viewer, Caroline. Thank you very much. If you could pass that on to us, please, that'd be great. But yeah, that's been my big problem this week. I've not really liked the weather, so I've been getting on with things without going out.
You've been good at perfecting this with your own podcast.
Well, yes.
You are getting really good at it, and I do admire your tenacity and your commitment to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been always quite good at being able to figure things out and get on with it. I'm going to cough.
It's not just that's one thing, but you're on furlough and it's the motivation to do it. That's what I admire about you doing it.
Furlough's a very odd thing because and I'm sure there are many people out there who are also on furlough. You're effectively still employed, but you can't do any work for the company. And so you're in this twilight, this middle ground of not knowing what you should be doing, or at least I assume a lot of people are not entirely sure what they should be doing. I'm sure there are some people who know exactly what they should be doing, which is anything and everything that they probably shouldn't be doing. But there you go. I'm just more interested in doing some of the things that I've always wanted to do but never had the time.
And that's good. I think the thing is, for people like you, who even though your whole company has had to take a salary cut, you still earning enough money that you don't need to go and look for other work, because obviously you can do other work during furlough.
Yes, of course.
And you'd think it would be fantastic to be continuing to be paid to do nothing, but actually that after a couple of weeks, that's not fantastic.
No.
you have to fill your time.
Precisely.
And I mean, some people might say, well, you could have been volunteering or something, but in actual fact, the evidence is, and you can see it around you, that there are so many people volunteering. There are too many volunteers and not enough jobs for them to do.
Exactly.
So you could volunteer and actually only be asked to do something once every couple of weeks. It's not something that's actually necessarily going to keep you particularly occupied.
And people do need to fill this time with something productive, because if not, then you end up getting frustrated at the simplest of things, which in no way is a segue onto some of the things that have been going on over the last couple of weeks. I mean, we were both at a protest yesterday in support of Black Lives Matter, and effectively a mass movement sparked by the horrendous lynching. I'm just going to call it what it is. Lynching of George Floyd.
Indeed. So we were in Milton Keynes, and it was a very sort of seemly affair.
Yes.
It was very well organised. There was social distancing. It was very strict, actually. Milton Keynes, for those who don't know, is based on a sort of grid system. People always joke about the roundabouts of Milton Keynes, but
Indeed.
The roundabouts mean
and the
that
concrete cows.
Between the roundabouts, there are wide streets and natural squares. So in one of them outside the station, the organisers, presumably, I don't know how you organise a protest. You must have to tell.
I've got to stop you there. I've got to inform the people who are listening to the podcast that I have a runny nose, so I'm going to wipe my nose.
Okay, you go ahead and do that.
You carry on.
So the organisers had marked out crosses 2 meters apart, and everyone had to wear a mask. I didn't see anybody without a mask. Well, certainly not within.
I mean, there were one or two
of arriving. They were offered a mask.
Yeah, and I thought that was something really good, that there were these people walking around saying, "Do you need a mask?"
Yeah,
incredibly good.
It seemed to me there was hardly any problem with social distancing. I mean, obviously, you don't have to distance from someone who is in your household. So there were a few slightly larger groups, maybe 4 or 5 from a family. 1 or 2 didn't quite have the common sense to go onto 2 X's, because as soon as they congregate around 1 X, you need to move apart. But generally speaking, we moved once, didn't we? It was excellently organised. There was chants and there were speeches, and the volume wasn't very good, so they walked around with the loud hailer so people could get a little.
I think the big problem for larger towns and cities is the numbers, really. I saw some of the footage of the people in London, and there wasn't really the ability to engage in social distancing based on the crowds. Try as I'm sure they did in fact try. It was not really something that they could do, which in some ways was a good thing. Yeah, it was a good thing that the numbers weren't excessively high in Milton Keynes, and so it was relatively easy to organise it in such a way as to keep it safe, which was great.
It's very moving when you take a knee for 8 minutes 46 seconds. Boy, it hurts.
Yeah, and that was the most moving part of it.
And we're not under somebody's knee.
Yeah.
So it's a very moving thing to do, actually. It certainly focuses the mind when it starts to hurt, and it does start to hurt. You feel your own weight going into the ground, and to think the fact that somebody might be underneath that is horrifying.
For me, I wanted it to hurt.
Oh yeah.
I wanted it to hurt for the 8 minutes 46 seconds. It was very important to me that it hurt before we were told that we could stand up.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah,
but I think some cities that there will be fewer people turn out than in other times because people actually are sensible about COVID-19. Most people do want to do the right thing, but we were talking, weren't we, or I was talking to one of my relatives in Scotland yesterday, and they wanted to go, but they're a little bit older, and B, they're in Edinburgh, where they have cobbled streets and quaint alleyways, which is what you like during the festival and when you're on holiday. But it's not a good design to protest in.
Is that the town that had some of its streets renamed by the protesters? No, I think that was Glasgow, because there are some streets in Glasgow that are named after individuals who profited from tobacco and sugar in the West Indies.
Well, as there are presumably in many.
No, yes, I'm sure.
And various other.
The important thing was that yesterday, and I assume as a result of protest in Glasgow, is that people renamed those streets. They put placards either above or below the actual name of the street with the name of George Floyd and a few other individuals.
Oh, right, I didn't know that.
Yes, it was very interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yes,
but certainly, if you're going into anything this weekend, just take care. And it's not always about the what happens when you get there. It's getting into and out of a space. You have to think about that. We thought about that, and Milton Keynes is good for that because of
Absolutely.
the grid. You can come into it from various points, but if you're hemmed in by natural features or architectural features, you have to think about that. There is an online protest today. Did you know that?
I wasn't aware of that.
6 p.m. There's an online protest.
What I found interesting is that with the London protest yesterday, I was hearing it on the radio. There were people being kettled after 10 p.m. That for whatever reason they were kept there. There was a reporter on LBC who was reporting, obviously live from the protest, and he wasn't able to leave because he'd been, cordoned in by the Met Police. It was rather extraordinary. It wasn't until about 10:30 that they were letting them out one by one, but the protesters had to leave their name and address before they'd let them go.
Yes, well, I don't particularly feel qualified to talk about that. There was obviously some trouble in London. There was mainly not trouble, but there was obviously some trouble, and the trouble is what will get the headlines and not do anybody any good.
Of course.
So yeah, I'm
it is what it
judgment
is
on that.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, but hopefully there are things that people who were complacent before are realizing now, and hope and change is what we need.
Well, you have to hope so, but I sort of stopped looking on Facebook this morning because I couldn't bear the ignorant comments that people make. And there's
Facebook, you should look on YouTube sometimes.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but there was a couple of times I was going to respond to something and I thought, why, I'm not going to waste my breath, because it'll just spark some tit for tat exchange, which is completely meaningless.
No. I mean, I agree with you. You see some things that just they exhaust you.
Yeah.
They exhaust you because clearly that individual's not engaged their brain. There's something not firing in the cerebral cortex that gives them the capacity to actually think beyond themselves. But there you go.
Well, the comment that particularly got me today was someone had shared a picture of some of the violence that had taken place yesterday, which involved the police horses, including, bicycles were thrown at the police horses. That's not good, and I it's not good against the police or the horses. The person who shared this is a horse lover, and of course I don't want the horses to be hurt or anything like that. But the comment that was made, not by the poster but by somebody else, was all lives matter, including horses. Yeah, I know, you haven't heard this yet. And then it said, wait, it's like a really, really big generalization. If black people want respect, then they have to earn it like everybody else. Otherwise, they don't do themselves any favors.
Oh, dear Lord.
Take note of that, my love.
I most certainly will. I'll be respecting horses as I go about my daily life.
Well, but you
just
do.
so
but
that
I
can earn the respect of this individual, even though I've no idea who they are,
That's not
where
even
they
my
live.
point. My point
And
is,
yes, I know, but I'm saying what I'm saying in response to that. It's palpably stupid.
well,
isn't
it's
it,
very,
David?
very stupid because A, you're not engaged in any kind of horse violence, but B, you black people, you've got to represent everybody. You're everybody. You're all black people. You have got to make sure that every single black person works bloody hard to earn respect.
It's symptomatic of the problem at large and what needs to be addressed.
I just sat there looking at it for ages, and so many times I thought, no, I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to bother. I waste my breath.
As I said, it's symptomatic of the problem when certain individuals are just acutely tone deaf to what's actually going on. But there you go. And I wasn't going to avoid talking about this. I mean, this podcast is supposed to be, just talking about things in general. This is something that's happening, something very, very important. And, there's no way to avoid it, and it shouldn't be avoided at all.
And the fact that it's happening during a health pandemic it means that people have to sort of be creative in a way of how they can make their voices heard. Because it's, I think the people that don't protest or make a stand.
Sorry, you carry on. I just realised that you're sort of moving out of frame.
I don't know how I'm doing that. Do I have to go that way?
There you go.
I think a lot of people, that will have been a very difficult decision for them. So they will be, trying to make sure that their voice is heard in a different way.
Mm.
But actually, you can't just say there's a pandemic, don't do that, because this is really, really important. And if the police or the army were called in to march all over us, you can't just go, as a pandemic, we'll just let them. You can't actually do that. You have to take a stand, I think.
Well, as I heard someone say, there's been a pandemic going on for 400 years without
anyway, certainly
an antidote.
From what happened in Milton Keynes yesterday, I didn't feel at any point unsafe. I felt safer than going to the Tesco that is down the road from our house, which we try to avoid going to, because that is a crazy place.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, you're quite right. There was nothing that made me fear that I was going to inhale droplets.
And that's because everybody was wearing a mask. I mean, that's what they say. Wearing a mask is an altruistic act. And in actual fact, if you wear a mask and no one else around you is wearing a mask, there's absolutely no point in you wearing a mask, really. But the fact was, everyone was wearing a mask and it was outside. And I thought, actually, this is probably the safest I felt in weeks.
And, you mentioned that now the government have said that masks are going to be mandatory on public transport. If you're going to the hospital, you have to wear a mask. Some people have suggested, even if you're going to your local physician, you should be wearing a mask.
Well, a lot of
and
GPs
why wouldn't you
doing that anyway?
Yeah. So we've actually, I don't know if going full circle is what I really want to say, but we've certainly gone from a point where people were initially saying what possible help could masks give us in terms of what's going on, to the point where we're saying, no, you've got to wear it now. And as I was saying to you before, the desire to get back to normal is a fantasy. It's a complete fantasy. It's just not going to happen. There is, yes, I'm going to say it, there is a new normal that is not normal, if you sort of get my point. We will never go back to the way things were before. And again, I actually think that's a good thing.
Yeah, so do I. But I think a lot of individuals and doctor surgeries and various institutions are kind of way ahead of the government, actually, in many respects. I mean, my mum said to me, I don't know, it's possibly 4 weeks ago now, that she had to go to her GP, and the instructions there are ring the doorbell, someone comes, gives you a mask, you stand back, you put it on before you're allowed in. I mean, they've been doing that for weeks.
Absolutely. And even if there is a vaccine, things like that should be going on. Because not that I always agree with everything Bill Maher says, but there are certain things that he talks about that I am in agreement with, and we're not going to be healthy unless we do healthy things, and it's to do with eating healthily, but it is also about engaging socially in a healthy way. And some people might think that that's extreme, but I don't. As he said, the Japanese got it right. They don't shake hands; they just bow.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think what is also going to be interesting is a balance between better hygiene and over hygiene. So what I mean by that is, for some time there has been, an issue with not allowing kids, for example, to go out and play in the dirt because people are scared of them picking up stuff. And actually, that's how they build immunity. You have to pick stuff up to build immunity. So I think we have to be sensible about hygiene, before you're eating. That kind of thing has to become much better than it was. But we still need to, allow kids to exist, within the confines of their house and their garden, and probably at some point it will be extended to maybe close friendship family groups. They still need to be able to build immunity. If we become too sanitized, children will never build immunity to anything.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm talking about that. I'm just talking about from a general point of view. I mean, I was reflecting on the fact the other day that again, this is anecdotal. I've no evidence of it on a macroscopic scale, but I've certainly noticed fewer incidents of people getting the cold or the flu.
Inside, aren't we? Yeah.
We're all inside, and yes, these are extreme circumstances right more. But I think more importantly, we're washing our hands more.
Well, yes, but we're also not feeling that pressure to go to work when you're not fit to go to work.
And that's exactly what I mean by things will never go back to the way they were before, because MDs, CEOs, and such the like surely have now realized this whole thing about working from home is not about people skiving off.
No, absolutely. I think that's the thing. If you've got a cold, you quite possibly are fit to work, but you're not necessarily fit to mix.
Yeah.
So but people feel under pressure to go in. I mean, either it might be financial pressure, or it might just be, they think they're going to let the site down, or people are going to go, there's nothing wrong with them, they're a skiver. But actually, it should be, you've got a cold, stay where you are, work from home for a couple of days.
Yeah, but
that's fine. Don't come in and mix.
I think the pressure was even beyond. People felt pressure to work beyond their normal working hours.
Oh yes, I know.
And which I always found insane. Absolutely insane. So, you're supposed to get to work for 9 o'clock. You're supposed to quit at 5. And yet I always used to see people still doing their job after 5. I used to see people doing their job before 9. And I always said, if that's what it requires to do the job, then there's something not quite right. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't offer more when they can offer more, but if that now becomes the norm, why are you selling people this notion of your working hours are from 9 to 5?
Yeah, people have to be a bit more disciplined. I do agree with you.
Yeah.
And I
sounding
think,
like a mouse then.
Well, I think sometimes you never said this to me, but I think sometimes you might think that I'm guilty of that. But the thing is, I always claw it back. And that's because I've worked.
No, I think you do. I think when you go beyond the time that you're supposed to work, you will always make up for it.
Yes, I do, and I've been very strict about that because since the birth of my first child, a long time ago, I've always worked part time, and it is extremely easy to be taken advantage of if you work part-time.
Mm.
And working part-time does not mean that you actually have to work full-time but squeeze it into shorter hours. It doesn't mean that. It also doesn't mean to say that you're lazy because you can't be bothered to work full-time. People work part-time for many, many reasons, and it could be that they have another job. It could be caring responsibilities. So the other thing that full-time does not mean is that actually you're available to us at any point during the week, but we only pay you for a certain number of hours. It is not that.
I've worked in environments where I know bosses have considered you lazy if you work from 9 to 5. If you say 5 o'clock, I'm putting down my tools, I'm going home now.
Yeah.
And that's just insane.
That is partly the reason why you and I are not going to be running companies and being massively wealthy. But that's a choice we've taken. We were qualified enough to do relatively decent jobs, and we're happy as we are. We're not great big spenders. And I suppose if your aim in life is to have as much money as possible, then that's the game you'll have to play. But work-life balance has always been important to me. And actually, I suspect that a lot of people have now begun to value it more.
Well, this pandemic has certainly shown that. I think, and I heard someone say this on the radio the other day, now that a lot of parents in particular have ended up spending a lot more time with their kids, they've seen the value of that, and they want more of that.
Especially parents, which will usually be men, but not always, who left at 6:30 in the morning and didn't get back till 8 o'clock at night, and maybe saw their children for half an hour. Because that sitting around in your car or on the train is so boring. And although some people make it productive
and unnecessary,
they shouldn't be making it productive, but B, how productive is it really when you're sitting squashed up?
Yes, you're sitting on the 8:15 to London, and you've decided to have a company group call or something. Anyway, I don't want to go into the mouth breathers on trains.
Exactly. And we certainly don't want mouth breathers on trains during the pandemic.
Exactly, precisely my point. Nick Abbott is absolutely right. The nonsense of getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to get dressed to get to work for 9 o'clock by driving or taking the train to sit in an office and do the very same thing that you can do at home. That whole process is completely useless.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there are reasons above doing your work where you may benefit from going to an office. I can't imagine in my 20s I would have wanted to work from home all the time. But
no, I'm not suggesting all the time.
No, exactly, but it could be. You if you have a full-time job, you go into the office for 2 days a week or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Exactly.
I think the thing is that there'll be hopefully there will be a shift from people in charge, some of whom are quite traditional, and you must be here, to going, actually, they've worked really hard during this time, and they were at home and they managed, and that's fine. They can do it.
I mean, I've already heard, at a personal level, I've already heard a CEO say that those things are going to change. There will be changes. There will be more working from home. There will be fewer people in an office. An office is not going to be regarded now as the place where you're supposed to be during your working hours. Things are going to change, as they should.
That's right, and actually, it might mean that companies might save some money because they might not need such large offices if they're never expecting everyone to be in at once. I mean, I understand that for regions of hygiene, things like hot desking are particularly popular at the moment, but if hot desking means the first thing you do is you get your antiseptic and you clean your desk first, well, that takes not that long, really. So these things might work, and hopefully there'll be some sort of status trappings that are lost. Well, a friend of mine who runs her own company she had an office in a prestigious part of London, and she did have it
Oh,
as a
right.
statement.
Okay, I know.
Because of the type of work she does, it was a statement. When she started her company, she didn't want to be seen to be sort of working at home, because it might have sort of indicated that it was a little bit sort of,
And
Robinson.
I imagine that she's had to be paying top dollar, so to speak, for that space.
Well, yes. I mean, she was making me laugh the other day, because she said she'd negotiated a particularly good 2-year rent deal, which she's now stuck in. But that's a slightly different issue.
Okay.
But you're right. She obviously pays top dollar, but they're not going to go back there. They're just going to all work from home.
Yeah, as they should. Brilliant.
There's nothing to prove now. They can do their job, and on they go.
Excellent.
And same with me. And I'm not going to be going in every day anymore. There's absolutely no need. We need a space to store stuff, and we need a postal address. But I can just go in once a week, check everything's fine, come back.
Well, if I still have a job, I know that I'll be doing more work from home, and only really attending the office when there are certain things that can only be done in person. I won't go too much into that, because then all you lovely people out there will be able to figure out where I work, and I'm not particularly interested in passing that information on right now. So there you go. Okay.
He's a spy. Oh
no, you've got me mixed up with what's his name, the chap there who worked for the Secret Service, allegedly.
I don't know what you're talking about. I slightly zoned
chap
out there.
Who stood for the Conservative Party leader.
This is like our conversations so often. The chap, that chap that we, that thing we saw on that
fellow,
thing.
Yes,
that thing that was on.
What
was it called? That thing on the telly. Which
it was
channel
called Thingamajigger.
And he used to be married to that woman. That's normally actually how our conversations go.
I'm actually talking about Rory Stewart. I've remembered his name now. Anyway,
the fabulous Rory Stewart. Can't help thinking, if he had won the leadership of the Conservative Party,
there'd be no coronavirus.
There'd be no coronavirus. Absolutely, he would have organised us logistically out of it.
Absolutely.
Anyway, it was not to be. He may, of course, be, I don't know, sitting in a darkened room thanking his lucky stars that didn't befall him.
Well, he's pulled out of running for London mayor as well.
Yes, I don't quite know why that was.
I don't know.
Maybe
he's been called back into service by the Secret Service. You never know.
Maybe indeed.
Okay. Anyway, I think we've probably exhausted the topic.
Exhausted.
Oh, are you? Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, in that case, I think we'll call it an end.
Okay.
We'll call it an end.
So what's happening? You're now going to do this in a different way.
We're not no, all I'm going to say is that, yes, Bill, so that's the end of the episode. I was going to do a Two Ronnies outro.
It's good night from me and it's good night from him.
Yes, but it's not night, and
and I'm not him.
And even though we're both wearing glasses.
Can I just ask you a question? You've got a purple chin.
Yes.
Do I?
No.
He has a purple light on the floor.
I do. That's supposed to create a lovely background there.
But he's all purple.
I don't know. Because like, I'm much closer to it.
Buttercups. Do you like butter? It's like that, but purple.
Okay. I think we should probably end it at this point. My name is Hubert Shorter.
And mine isn't. Bye.
We'll see you next time.